Hello, I am Andreas Rönnberg, also known as Rumple, and I'm the level designer and leader for Cryofear. And in this map, we added a camera sequence, and you may wonder why we added that. That's because from the beginning we decided to have Cryofear as a simple mod. I mean, when I started the project, I wanted Cryofear to only be just a sick mod that I wanted to be really scary. And why you were taking photos was because Simon had like a psychosis or something, and he had killed his mother and went around taking photos of her. But we scrapped that later on, and we decided to just have this sequence to be a nice little thing, because having this sequence is scary because it makes you unable to know what will happen when you take photos. And I like that.
Hello, I'm James, or Minwi, and I'm the programmer for Cryofear. This nightmare level is pretty interesting, although it's by no means technically sophisticated. Like the rest of your weapons, your camera is shooting out invisible bullets, so to speak. When the bullet hits a wall or other object, it will check all entities in its immediate radius. If it finds the invisible object we place over the crosses, it triggers the event it's tied to, such as making the writing that's scrawled on the wall appear, or a hanging body or whatever. It's a simple solution for quite an interesting map.
Beta testing this mod was more than I asked for during the final stages of development. First of all, because it was so amazing to actually play the mod and see how everything worked out and was still getting worked on. But also because the mod hates me. I had so much trouble getting it to work because of bugs and whatnot, and no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't get it to function properly. This, on most part, was user error by me. I failed to update properly and generally lack any experience towards coding. My point is that you players and fans, I hope, have no idea how lucky you are to play this final version of Cryofear. The work that Andreas, James, Georgie, Stig and Aida has put down into this mod is nothing short of awesome.
Hi, this is Stig, aka Dragonnor speaking, and I voice act Simon in Cryofear. Being a voice actor for Cryofear has been quite a journey, and I mean that literally. Cryofear was one of my first projects as a voice actor, and when I started working on the mod, my experience was somewhat iffy. Since there's a lot more work involved in switching out the lines in a choreographed cutscene than just switching out the audio, you'll notice a very distinct difference between the first scenes, which were also the first lines I got to work on when I joined, and the later ones when it comes to acting technique, as they're literally years apart in acting experience. But at the same time, it sounds like Simon goes from being somewhat naive to becoming more hardened as the game progresses, which makes for good character development.
This is the start map, and it was the first map to Cryofear that was ever created. From the beginning it was just using simple looking Half-Life textures with very low resolution. And later on I went to my capital city, Stockholm, where I went around taking photos and made my own costume textures to make it look really like Stockholm and have a really photorealistic look. Then later on I wanted to make the windows in the buildings to have their lights on, and I wanted to have people standing there and watching you, but I never added it because I didn't want to confuse the players too much in the beginning. I wanted it to stay kinda simple in the beginning, not have too much shit appearing.
Very early on in development, we decided we wanted to have extensive unlockables. Somebody came up with the idea of custom hoodies, and this presented a problem to us. There are so many instances of the Simon model spread out across the models folder that it would be almost impossible to go through every single model and replace it with a different hoodie version each time. I came up with a simple solution of replacing every single instance of Simon's hoodie texture loaded into any kind of model with an external TGA texture. In this way we can have many combinations of clothes without using multiple models. This padlock puzzle is one of my favourites in the mod because it's so intricate. It relies on many variables. As you may have noticed, the number is actually randomly generated from 1111 to 9999. So that means you can't just play through the mod and then remember what the previous combination was next time you play through. As you well know, this puzzle relies on a couple of things: gathering the username and the password, which aren't quite randomly generated, but the username and password is picked from 32 different usernames and 32 different passwords, and they can be combined. Again, so you can't just play through the mod and do the puzzles without, actually properly doing it. We decided to do this because it's just the kind of, we want people to see what we've made. We don't like the idea of people just running through the mod remembering what the solutions are. We want people to actually see what we've done, especially Rumpel's work on the churchyard area where you get the username and password. It's very good mapping. We want people to experience it.
This map was from the beginning made by James Winwy, and it was intended to be a secondary route to the apartments. But we scrapped that because the map was never finished. And we also thought that it was unnecessary to have two routes and it would take too much of our time to make it. So I decided to extend the map instead and add this little small town that you run to with those small streets. And that part is actually a replica of a town in Stockholm called Gamla Stan. And also the square in this town is a replica as well. And it's called Stortorget. And the church there is called Storkyrkan. And actually those sounds from the clock sounds from Storkyrkan in the Cry Fair is real sounds from Storkyrkan in real life. And I head there only to record those sounds. That's how dedicated I am to this mod.
You'll notice that all of the notes you can read in the mod come up as fully bright models, and the reason for this is because there's a lot of kind of clutter in the mod. There's a lot of random papers scattered around, newspapers, bits of scrap and all that kind of thing. So to help players to easily identify what you can and can't read, we made the notes, just like the weapons, come up as full bright. I'm actually very proud of the work I've done with the ladders in Cry of Fear. This was actually added very late in development, probably later than it should have been because it's quite a lot of work. This was after we started working with model-based cutscene cameras. If anyone's familiar with Half-Life mapping, they'll know that normally you have to use normal Half-Life entities and special objects that the camera will move to and from. That's very annoying to work with, and you don't really get a good representation or idea of what the finished product will look like until you've compiled the map and tested, etc., etc. So I developed a system whereby you animate the camera in 3ds Max and you see what's happening in the viewport there. You export the map to a DXF, import it into 3ds Max, and then you can fly the camera around as much as you like. Using this technology, I realised after looking at how shitty the ladder system is in Half-Life, where you just slide up and down, I decided I want to improve it by having a animated one. So I knocked up a quick animation, which actually ended up being used as the final thing with a few tweaks. And this was actually inspired by Turok 2, which I played years and years and years ago, and that had a ladder system similar to that, whereby the screen would kind of shake around as if you were climbing up, and I was very impressed by that back at the time, and I just thought, why not?
This is the apartments map, and it's also one of the very first maps that was ever created. And the funny thing with this map is that it's also a replica from a structure in real life. It's the building where my dad lives, and I think it's very cool to be there in real life and run around and play like if you were Simon. I think it's pretty cool, and it looks exactly like the building where my dad lives.
Well, this puzzle may seem pretty easy in that it tells you exactly where to use the key. Keep in mind that it's the first introduction to puzzles in the mod. So originally we didn't intend the key to have a tag at all, so you had to kind of work out through trial and error as to where the key should be used. But this wasn't really fun, as there's so many doors in the mod and no real way to check which ones you have or haven't used apart from memory. Therefore this was pretty much the best solution. You'll notice that we actually notify you that there's something in the ceiling. The reason being for this is simply that when playtesters tested the mod, often they didn't actually notice the gun in the ceiling. I think this puzzle is pretty nice, and it gives the players a kind of overall goal in what to do in the apartment, and that's unlock the elevator in the main stairwell. And whilst it isn't entirely obvious at first, there are a few subtle hints that we give to you to kind of guide you in this direction. One of them being the light above the keypad on the top floor in the total darkness. That should draw you towards that. The second one being the note where it mentions that he's disabled the elevators so the kids have to come up the stairs. The puzzle, the key code rather, is actually randomly generated, and the reason we did this was because we didn't want people just simply skipping out all the nice areas that have been mapped out next time they play if they just remember the code.
Here's the guy who had SMS'd you from the beginning, from the construction thing, where when you enter the apartments you get SMSs like, help me, blah blah blah. And the guy who lies in the bathtub, he's the one who SMS'd you, because he has a mobile lying in the water. And it's pretty easy to miss it, but it's him who is SMSing you. And I from the beginning wanted to have victims who are trying to give you objectives, like this guy in the beginning of the apartments. He wants you to help him, but then he commits suicide. And that was the main plot for Cry of Fear in the beginning, where you are getting objectives from people who are committing suicide, and at the end you were committing suicide yourself. And we wanted to keep that, but we changed that when we got a voice actor for Sophie, and we really didn't make only suicides. We wanted to have a guy committing suicide in the subway station, but we scrapped that, and in the forest and etc. But we scrapped that suicide idea. And yeah, and after every suicide, things started to happen, like in those apartments where everything gets sick and shit.
Hi, this is Stig, aka Dragonnor speaking, and I voice act Simon in Cry of Fear. You might notice that Simon doesn't really react to all the blood smeared all over the bathtub in the cutscene. And the reason for that is that in the initial versions of the cutscene, there was no blood. The guy in the tub only had the pill overdose, which made it more realistic for Simon to sound like he was confused about the guy overdosing on pills before he got there, but not downright disgusted at what he was seeing.
Those metallic bars are supposed to be like barriers or something that the monsters have placed. And we wanted the players to think it was monsters who has like blocked you in and wanted to kill you. Also that the wooden boards blocking the doors are also that. And that's what's happening right after the bathtub scene, where you hear something hammering. And it was supposed to make the player think that monsters has trapped you. At that time, players don't know that everything was written in a book. We wanted the player to think that everything was kind of like a virus outbreak where people got insane or something. And then we wanted the player to think that maybe a gas, like the doctor is wearing a gas mask, and that we wanted to make the players think that maybe a gas was making people hallucinate and stuff, and making people crazy. But yeah, so that's the idea behind those bars and wooden boards blocking your way. In the beginning of the project, we didn't have tiles in this place here in the apartments. We only had water being there, or maybe not even a water, because we wanted it to be realistic and really make the players feel like the monsters was trapping you. Before, the monsters looked more normal and less fucked up, but after we had played Afraid of Monsters again, we really liked the sick things that was happening in Afraid of Monsters, and that's why we added the tiles and like the room in the apartments where everything has like got a gravity at 90 degrees at the walls. We added that after on, just because to make it a bit more sick. So yeah, that's why it has tiles everywhere. The tiles has just appeared for some reason. But it's nice and makes you scared, I think. A pretty cool thing with this torture room is that the guy who is killing the other guy is actually my sister's husband, I mean. And the guy who gets killed is my brother, my older brother. And it's pretty funny to watch them fight like that. The photos that the textures are made of are photos from them. And yeah, I just like to tell you that. Now this is a interesting place. Those stairs, never-ending stairs. We added that for a reason to make the player really think it's not happening for real, that it's all really just a hallucination or just a psychotic moment, psychosis, I mean. So yeah, those stairs are supposed to be there just to make it seem unrealistic. And that's a bit good, because then we have a reason to add a strange boss coming over there.
Another way that this mod differs from Afraid of Monsters is that each area is now punctuated by a boss fight, and this marks a milestone in your progress. The reason we added bosses is purely because, well, we like boss fights. They all have some kind of strategy to them, and this is the simple find the weak spot and attack it. The boss bars weren't added until later on in the development, simply because we wanted a way to visually show whether or not you're actually doing any damage to the boss, which kind of corresponds to the whole weak spot idea. It's nice to know when you're actually making progress with the boss.
And this is the third or fourth time I remade this cutscene. For the first time, I used old models. The old models you can find in the very old screenshots with the Simon that I made and the doctor that I made too. But those models didn't move their mouth. They were missing a mouth controller, a mouth bone. So the new models with those bones, they couldn't use the current animation, so I had to reanimate it. But still, the new animations, I wasn't happy with them either. So I had to animate them again, and then again, to make me satisfied or happy with the result. And yeah, about this cutscene with the doctor wearing the gas mask. We wanted the players to think that there was a gas that was making you hallucinate and go crazy and fucked up. So we wanted the players to think that and really confuse them. That's why we made the doctor all strange and wearing a gas mask. This mobile scene is pretty interesting. It's my voice acting, actually. My first voice acting ever. It's my voice that's coming from the phone that you are phoning the guy behind the mysterious voice coming. I recorded it by phoning my own mobile and making it loud so you can hear the voice, and then I filmed it. So then I went to another room and talked, and I was filming and recording the sound from my cell phone, and I just talked very strange. Then I recorded it from a cell phone so it would sound realistic. It was pretty interesting. Now, this place might be my favorite part of the mod, or my favorite scary part. It's so simple and easy, yet so damn pro. The idea behind this is that we wanted the players to think that they are chased by a guy with a chainsaw, and but there's really no one there. It's just some sounds playing. And but the players really think that it could be a guy with a chainsaw because they have just met a guy with a chainsaw, the boss. So it's a very good thing to trick the players to think that they are chased by someone, but they aren't. So this is really what psychological horror is about. It's just fucking with your head.
This area was actually mapped out by myself earlier on in the development when Rumple and I decided to share some mapping duties. However, he took over later on because I was too lazy to finish it. There may be a discrepancy in the styles, but I still think it's pretty nice. It was actually inspired by a book I found in my house about kind of London underground tunnels and sewers, which is, I don't know, pretty interesting to some people maybe. I don't know. But anyway.
I really like those caves in this map. They were actually inspired by a dream I had. I dreamt about I was walking around in some caves with some friends, and I thought it was really scary. And so that's why I added those caves in this mod. They doesn't really look like the ones I had in my dream, but as I said, they were just inspirations, my dreams. And the result is nice. It's a cool construction thingish thing.
You really want to know this spoiler, or this Easter egg, do you? You really can't just find it by your own. Or maybe you have already found it. Or maybe you're just too fucking gay to actually find it by yourself. Just so fucking gay. Just so fucking disgusting, and just so... I don't know. But I'm going to reveal it to you now. If you use the lighter on the cigarettes, you'll trigger a cutscene. And that cutscene actually has a meaning. It means that, oh wait, you take a smoke next to the dead guy who has committed suicide, and the camera is showing them both when Simon is smoking. And the idea behind that scene is that smoking kills.
Now this cutscene with the doctor killing that guy with the saw, it's meant to make you think that the doctor is evil and bad. So that's why we made we made him kill that guy just like that with a saw, really brutal. And that's, yeah, because we wanted you to think that the doctor was all mad and evil. So, and about this key swallowing fag, the fat fucker, I'm really not happy with that idea, with him swallowing the key. It's kinda funny in a way. It was not my idea from the beginning, it was from a classmate from college. And I just said, yeah, why not? I'm going to add it. And then I added it, and I can't just cut it out. It's kinda original anyway, but making swallowing the key like that, it's not really scary. I don't want to tell you why I made this. I really don't. I don't think so. No. I really don't. This is too much. No. Really no. No. Fuck you. Kaffel. Schnessem van vill bossa sig sitta ner för stan ja. Snap säkring upp sig. Eles me fascinam dessa aí. Stereotypist that do know what. More have you young us? Zero. What was the next dinner? Yes, Ningo Gamma. Shinzula. That's all. Spinner. When I came to this point, when I started making this map, I wanted to make a bus stop. So I made a bus stop, and at the bus stop I wanted to have a map, because we wanted you to kind of navigate around the city to find your way home. So, but at that point we didn't have any town planned or any name on the town or any roads, so I had to design the entire city in order to make you use the maps to navigate your way home. So this is where we planned the entire city and all that stuff. I also started experimenting with kind of an organic thing that was kind of infecting the monsters. You see those red stuff. I wanted the player to kind of think it still was some kind of virus that the doctor was talking about that made you kind of crazy, and so I tried to show that by having those organic stuff. And here I wanted to have something that was following you around, so I came up with the idea to use a very fast guy with a chainsaw that we call Saw Runner, because he has a saw and he runs. An interesting thing is that there's an M16 in the room that he appears from, because it's very hard to get it. So try and get it. The lady that appears here, that is just appearing and breaking the door and screaming at you with the red dress, I call her the Dreamer, because once when I had a dream, I dreamt about a girl looking exactly like her, with a red dress and the hair like that, and she had this very scary scream and just appeared floating at me and screamed like that. And that dream horrified me, so I decided to put that in Cryofear, and hopefully it should have scared you pretty much. This park over here is actually a park from real life, and this park is located in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden, and this park is named in real life Observatorielunden, or as Swedish people call it, Obsan. And that orange house is Stadsbiblioteket and is very famous here in Sweden, so a lot of Swedes might recognize this place, and they might think it's awesome. And the cool thing is that it really looks like in real life. It's so identical. The only thing that differs from real life is the stairs, where the red car is located. In real life, the stairs aren't really there. They are more like where the gate is that you unlock. But I had to move the stairs to that place because of limited half-life shit, you know. I named this building to TL Trading because I wanted to advertise my mom's husband's company, and his company is named TL Trading. So yeah. If you haven't tried it yet, you can actually press those traffic lights buttons, but it's a bit tricky, but you can press every button, every traffic light button, and it's pretty interesting for us Swedish people because those lights works and sounds and looks exactly like real life. So try it. This park over here is another real-life location. It's called Humlegården, and it's also located in Stockholm. I'd like to mention that every place in Cryofear is taking place in Stockholm, because that's where I live and that's where I've got reference stuff. So this is yet another real-life location that looks kinda exactly like real life, so Humlegården, you can just Google it if you want. This place, this apartment here, is made out of my brother's apartment where he used to live. He no longer lived there, but I made that apartment of that place in a way. So it looks exactly the same like the other levels that I've been making, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
This boss has a fairly simple cycle in that it can either attack or move around, but I still think it's pretty nice. You have to move around quite a lot and take cover, and it can actually be quite a dangerous boss if you don't know what you're doing.
This is yet another real-life location. This place is Sankt Eriksplan, and it's also in Stockholm. So you can look that up if you want to see how it looks. We wanted from the beginning that you will either take the subway or the waterway that you will soon go to in order to get to Hansen Square. So we wanted to have like a different path to the Hansen Square subway, but we scrapped that and used both ways instead to make the mod longer. Otherwise it would be a little bit shorter, but a bit funner to play again. But we thought that it was a bit unnecessary. We just wanted to make the mod just long, so we merged them together, the both ways. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. This part over here is
actually a view of Gamla stan, and that is also in Stockholm. So what I did, I was walking around in Stockholm at the night, and I was walking along with the water, and I saw this beautiful view, and I thought like, shit, I should do that in Cryofair. So I took some photos of all the street lights and the view. So then when I came home, I made them into textures and started making the map, and it turned out very good.
This is Norrtullsgatan, and it's located in Odenplan, also in Stockholm. The interesting thing with this street is that it's right outside the college that I graduated in. So it's pretty interesting to walk here. The only thing that differs from the real life area is the bus stop. I added a bus stop because I wanted to make the player know where he was. So you know that you're in a college. So this is the college I graduated in. It's called Cybergymnasiet, and this map was supposed to be a project that I made at college. It was a project where the pupil could choose whatever he or she wanted to make and just make it. So I decided to make my school into 3D. So I saw that as an opportunity to also work with Cryofair at school time. So it was pretty nice. And I got the best score. The station names sign here is actually just a copy of the station name sign that is in Stockholm. Although I changed the colors, and I also, of course, changed the names of every station. I got a lot of help from James, who made the names sound more English than my totally translated names was. It was very funny to read them because they were so badly translated, because I basically just translated it from the Swedish names to English. So James helped me out with that, but still it was a pain in the ass to come up with new names to every damn station. And also there was like double the stations before, but I had to cut them off. I removed half of the stations because it just looked messy on the map. And also, yeah, I just wanted to have it more simple. It looks better like that. So yeah, it's a lot of names, but it looks damn nice. This station is also a real-life location, and it's called Sankt Eriksplan. So what I did was I was taking photos on Christmas Eve of this station. So I was modding on Christmas, so I didn't spend any Christmas time, but I spent some Cryofair time. So the reason why I went taking photos on Christmas Eve is because the town is like fucking empty when it's Christmas. So it's pretty embarrassing walking around taking photos for textures, because people might think you're a terrorist or something. So I like to do that when it's all empty. This cat over here is actually the cat you see in the beginning, in the intro. You know, the cat that's walking by. So James came up with the idea to use that cat and make it dead. So it appears dead somewhere in the mud. And that's because James hates cats. And I agree with him. Cats are fucking gay, so I let James make the cat dead, and I added it in the map.
James and I was discussing about having another scene where Simon is just watching and observing the doctor, where he is just being crazy, so Simon will think that the doctor really is crazy. But also no, because you will kinda understand what the doctor is trying to do. We're trying to like make the player think that it's still some kind of virus is going on, and we're just trying to mess with the player's brain. And so yeah. This train station is also another real-life location, and it's called T-Centralen or Centralen. This train station is also another real-life location, and it's called T-Centralen or Centralen, and it's the main central station, main central subway station in Sweden. So this is where all the train connects, and it's the largest and biggest train station in Stockholm and Sweden.
Hello. Me and James was discussing on how we could make the mod even longer. So after I was playing Afraid of Monsters, just for inspiration, I realized that I used a lot of backtracking in Afraid of Monsters. So I suggested, or I don't know if James did it, but we suggested that you should head back to the apartments. And it was a brilliant idea. So when you headed back to the apartment would get even more fucked up. And because last time you was there, it started to get fucked up, but now it's even more fucked up. And at the beginning we wanted the apartment to be burned up and was on fire or something, but we scrapped that because it will be too much work to do. And you know, I just want to release the mod. So yeah.
This area here kinda symbolizes that Simon is kinda climbing down very deep down in his mind, and then he hears that this record from the doctor when he's talking about Simon's journal and all that stuff. So yeah, that kinda symbolizes that, and that's why I call this map also for Down.
It's become clear that Simon is not progressing mentally like I initially had hoped. I suggested that Simon should keep a book to write down the feelings and anxieties whenever he needed to. This seems to have gone out of... Fan ta dig, Andreas, helvete!
And the last bit where you run into the light, when you fall down to the total darkness, the light is kinda helping you to get out of the dark mind that you just got trapped in. So you're like escaping your own mind, and that's when you get back to the reality, like here, you find the fuse. The voice that is being recorded here, that is talking, is actually James' father. And James asked him to record some lines to kind of help Simon to find the correct objective. So that's pretty cool to have James' father involved in Cry of Fear. I wanted to kind of show the players that Simon is really writing the book, and you can see it right over there that he's sitting there and writing like an insane fucker. And it's pretty interesting, I think. Those corridors here are very interesting for me because I had this dream where I was sitting in a mental hospital and I was watching out of the windows. I was looking out the windows and I saw this city in the dark. And when I woke up, I really wanted to make this dream in Cry of Fear. So I did it, and this is how it turned out. It's this corridor here, and you can look out the window and you see the city. It looks exactly like the dream I had. And this is also pretty interesting for Cry of Fear because it shows that Simon was sitting in a mental hospital as well. So, yeah. This following sequence where you are getting chased by those upside down guys. This idea was originally to Afraid of Monsters 2, where I wanted to have a boss called the Hanger to follow you like this, but we made it to Cry of Fear instead because I don't think I would ever make Afraid of Monsters 2 anyway, so I think this is really nice.
This is something that I still class as a boss area, but it's slightly different. There's no boss pass that should indicate to players that you cannot fight these things, and instead you should run away. All you have to really do is make your way through the maze to the exit to beat it. Originally there were no indicators as to where you should be going, and it was pretty much a case of trial and error. This is too hard, so Andrew set out the maps on the walls that you can use to see where you are and where you should be going.
I'm back. At college, I was talking to some guys from my class, and I asked them about some ideas to Cry of Fear. About like, I was talking to them about that I was making a train sequence. Then I asked them like, how do you think it should end? And one of the guys said, well, let Simon climb up from the broken train, the crashed train. And I was like, yeah, that's a nice idea. So then I came home and I started working on that, and now it's in the mod. So thank you from the guys from college. I'm really proud of this forest. I'm really happy about it because I really managed to make it so you feel like you're in the middle of a forest. And I've always wanted to create a forest like this because it really looks like a typical Swedish forest. And I actually made the forest that's on my backyard. I went there and took a lot of photos, and I came home and started creating the forest. And I'm very proud of it. This is a forest I've always wanted to create. From the beginning, I had created this scene with the map. I was dropping the TV with a funk train on a funk breakable box, and it looked very shit because when the box broke, it just spawned a lot of gibs, and the rope kind of just disappeared. It looked shit, and the only thing to really make it look good was to animate it from 3D Max, and James suggested me to do that. Although I modeled the box, or I don't know if James did it, but James did the most work. I modeled the box, he kinda animated it to look like real ragdoll, and then Jordi helped us to animate the rope. So it was really a full teamwork thing here, which I really liked this part. Creating it was very fun.
This area is pretty interesting because me and James were discussing about having enemies which was falling down from trees. And I always wanted to have hanging corpses just falling down on you. I even wanted to have it in A Threat of Monsters, but now I managed to make it, and it's all scripted with mapping. The area over here was supposed to be like a realistic underground basement area, but as I was mapping, I didn't get bothered making it realistic, so I just made it unrealistic with this nightmare section. I wasn't sure if it will fit because it randomly just got surrealistic in the mod, but who cares? You know, the entire mod is not real anyway, so having this surrealistic area was pretty nice, and it adds some variations to the mod, and it was fun to do, and it's also fun to play, I guess. I've always wanted to have realistic lightning in my mods, and this time I managed to do it. And how I made it was I recorded some real lightning outside when it was lightning, and then of the video I recorded, I stopped frame by frame and recreated it in a model. So each frame of a model, each frame of the video was a specific model, and the lightning you see in the mod is the sky changing model every frame, like in the video I recorded. So I got it looking exactly like the real lightning from the video I recorded, and it was pretty tricky and also fun to do, and the result is fantastic. Welcome to Mölnberg Mental Hospital. This mental hospital is very interesting because it's a hospital from a real place, and that place is Beckomberga, and it's a mental hospital pretty close to where I live, and yes, it lies in Sweden. And in the 1930s, that hospital was the biggest mental hospital in the whole Europe at that time. And this building right here is one building of the many buildings that Beckomberga contained. And this specific building is the only building that's left from Beckomberga, because everything else has been demolished. So the interesting thing with this building is that it looks exactly like Beckomberga in real life, because I was there taking photos and stuff, and you can see in the videocast of how I made it when I went around there taking photos. So I made it in real time in videocast, so you can watch it if you're interested in how Beckomberga looked like in real life. And yeah, have a nice tour in this hospital.
This puzzle is kind of a nod to old school survival horror games in which almost all of them required some kind of puzzle in which you had to reroute the power. In this case, it's simply moving all the poles, or whatever the hell they are, to the bottom position. Players can know that they're connecting the power by there being a spark effect every time that you move it to the correct position. I came up with this puzzle idea, and I was sitting at the table with 4 pencils trying to move them independently of each other, trying to make it the hardest possible combination. However, if you know what you're doing, it's kind of easy.
The bottom floor, however, is fictional. It's all made up, and the one who designed it is James. He designed the bowling hall, the bowling alley, and the basketball arena thing. We decided to keep it as the bottom floor. And the only thing that really looks like Beckomberga, the mental hospital in real life, is the other map, the first and second and third floor, and also the attic.
The more astute players among you may realise that the cutscene where you interact with the doctor about the P345 pistol that you need to get from the bowling alley is actually different depending on whether or not you have it prior to seeing him. If you do have it when he first sees you, you tell him that you already have it and he knows about the gun in the bowling alley. If you don't, then he agrees to go and get it. It's touches like this that makes me proud to be part of the Cry of Fear dev team.
The interesting thing with this scene is that you can either choose to give the weapon to the doctor or to keep it. And what it really means with this option is that if you give the weapon to the doctor, it means you trust him. And that's why you get the good ending. And if you keep the weapon, it means that you don't trust him, of course. And that's when you kill him in the ending. And that's, you know.
This puzzle is damn nice if I do say so myself. It's in multiple parts. The first part requires getting the 2 halves in the numeral place, putting them together to get one of 3 randomised telephone codes. You then phone the number on the telephone and that triggers a cutscene where the sick version of Simon in the opposite window holds up a board with a code on it. You then use the telescope to read what's on the board and use it to activate the keypad at the top of the asylum. The thing about this is that not only is the number on the board randomly generated, but it won't end the cutscene until the game knows you've actually looked at Simon himself with the telescope. This is done by using a simple trace line from where you're aiming with the telescope.
Andreas, or Rumpel as you may know him, gave me an assignment on a Friday before I was going out partying in one weekend. He needed me to make some AI voices for the doctor that was to be used during this intense fight that you just went through. And if I remember correctly, I was compelled to finish recording before I went out, although I had already had a few beers. It started out really simple, like I always do, breaking down the lines I've been given and trying to reflect the scene with my own voice as good as possible. But as I'm not an experienced voice actor, I've felt that some of my work did not have the quality I demanded from myself. So I improvised. For grunts and pain, I hit myself with a belt on my arm. For a darker and more scary voice, I'd smoke before recording and try not to clear my throat. You have to make do with what you can.
I really like this lake because it's also from a real life location. And that area is called Kyrksjön and it lies very close to where I live. So I went there one day, actually with my dad, and I went around taking photos, and he must have thought I was pretty weird. However, an interesting thing with this bit is that the water is reflecting the sky very good, and it makes the water look damn nice. But it's actually faked. The water is invisible here, it's only the reflection and refraction that is visible. There is no ground, so what you see down there is the sky. So it's just in an invisible shader where you see the sky sphere under the water. So it's just nothing under the water. It's just the sky. It's just fake. The reflection is just faked. So, but it looks very nice, and it was pretty tricky to come up with that idea. And a lot of games do that, so this is not a cheap solution. So yes, I'm pretty pleased.
Hopefully you'll think we're copying Silent Hill 2 in this part. It really came about because I really wanted to break up the first-person view. I mean, I just wanted to add some kind of new dynamic to the gameplay, and we felt that a boat ride across the lake in third person might be a really nice break, and it'd kind of allow you to get your breath whilst you kind of take in all the surroundings. It's a really beautiful map, and there's all the kind of daylight and forest and all that kind of stuff, and I think it's a nice contrast to what you've previously been going through in the cities. I think it's a nice little break. The swimming parts are another way to break up the whole first-person view run and gun gameplay. This is accomplished by simply the normal Half-Life swimming code, but then we also add the first-person view hands swimming, so it feels a lot nicer and kind of more different. Those of you who are a bit more astute may notice that as you pull your hands to the right, much like a normal swimming, that propels you forward. You also may notice that when you get out of the water, your sleeves are darker, and so your gloves, to simulate them being wet. They'll gradually fade back out to normal as they dry out. These are just some other really nice touches that we've got in the game.
I really love this section of the mod because it's the first map I've ever made that's in daylight and outside area, of course. And the other interesting thing with this map is that it is right outside my house, this place. It's not really exactly the same roads and stuff, but it has the same textures and the same design as it looks outside my house. So it feels like walking around outside my house in my town. And it's really nice. I love it.
This is a nice contrast, I think, because suddenly you're torn away from your usual running, behind a sprint, jump, duck, dodge, or those kind of things, and now you're suddenly in a wheelchair. You can only move slowly, you can't strafe, you can't dodge, you can't do anything, and you've got one weapon. Hopefully it's a nice contrast, although I'm sure many people won't like the fact that you're now so suddenly limited in vision, and this is a somewhat slower ending than the other versions. This last kind of animated interactive cutscene was animated by myself, and if I do say so myself, I fucking love it. We wanted the mod to end with a bang, and we thought kind of strangling and punching this guy to death was a good way to do it, so hopefully you like it. Very early on in development, we decided we wanted to have extensive unlockables. Somebody came up with the idea of custom hoodies, and this presented a problem to us. There are so many instances of the Simon model spread out across the models folder that it would be almost impossible to go through every single model and replace it with a different hoodie version each time. I came up with a simple solution of replacing every single instance of Simon's hoodie texture loaded into any kind of model with an external TGA texture. In this way we can have many, many combinations of clothes without using multiple models.
Hey guys, what's going on? John Splits here, and welcome to my map. Look around you, this is my map. Well, anyway, this was my test map at first, and then when the campaign got started, I decided to improve on this map by, I don't know, just making it more Halloweeny. For example, the maze and the boss fight and its surroundings. Anyway, this is my first proper map that I made. I made a couple of other maps, but they were shit. Yeah. But anyway, I hope you enjoy my map, and bye.